Title: The Distance Between Trees. There's a stretch of road outside my town where the trees don't grow the way they should. You won't notice it at first. That's the problem. Everything looks almost normal. But if you stop, if you really look, you'll see the gaps between the trees aren't random. They're spaced too evenly. Like something tall needed room to pass through. And if you follow that line of spacing long enough, you'll start to wonder where it leads. Because I did, and I shouldn't have. It started with something small. It always does. A missing sound. I used to walk that road at night, headphones in, same playlist, same route. There's comfort in repetition. You expect the world to behave. But one night, the audio cut out. No glitch, no static, just silence. Not even wind. I took my headphones off and realized the silence wasn't coming from them. It was everywhere. The trees weren't moving. The insects weren't chirping. Even my footsteps felt absorbed, like the ground didn't want to give them back. That's when I noticed the spacing. Tree, gap, tree, gap. Perfectly measured. Too precise for nature. And in one of those gaps, farther down than I could clearly see, something darker than the dark. At first, I thought it was a trick of my eyes adjusting, but the longer I stood there, the more it stayed wrong. It didn't blend into the darkness, it interrupted it, like a silhouette cut out of the night itself. Tall, unnaturally tall, too thin to be a person, too straight to be a tree, and I had this overwhelming certainty that it had always been there. I just hadn't lined up with it before. I didn't run. That's what scares me now. I didn't feel panic, not immediately. I felt noticed. Not in the way someone looks at you, in the way a place becomes aware you're inside it. The air felt tighter, closer, like the road had narrowed even though it hadn't. And then something strange happened. I blinked, and the distance between us changed. Not by movement, not by steps, just less space. Like a frame had been removed from reality. I turned away, just for a second. Long enough to tell myself I was imagining things. Long enough to breathe. But when I looked back, the gaps between the trees had shifted. Not all of them. Just the ones leading toward me. Like a path had been redrawn, and whatever stood at the end of it was now aligned directly with me. I couldn't see a face. That's the part everyone focuses on, right? The missing face. But that's not what unsettled me. It was the lack of anything to focus on at all. Your eyes try to land somewhere. Eyes, mouth, shape, but there's nothing. And the longer you look, the more your mind starts to fill it in. Not with features, with expectations. And every expectation feels wrong. That's when I heard it. Not a voice. Something quieter. Like a thought that didn't belong to me. Don't move. It didn't sound like a command. It felt like a correction. Like I had already done something wrong. So I stood there, completely still, watching something I couldn't understand, while it stood in a place that didn't make sense. And slowly, so slowly, I almost convinced myself it wasn't happening. The trees behind me began to space themselves out, one by one, creating another line, another path. I realized then it wasn't approaching me. It was making room for something else. Or maybe, but for me, I don't remember deciding to leave. I just remember being somewhere else. Back at my house. Door locked, lights on, phone in my hand. No signal. The time? Exactly the same as when the silence started. I tried to explain it away. Fatigue, stress, overactive imagination, until the next morning. When I stepped outside and noticed the trees along my street. They weren't planted like that before, they couldn't have been. Too evenly spaced, too deliberate. And when I stood on the sidewalk, I could see it far down the line, between two trees that shouldn't have lined up. That same interruption in the world. Waiting, I haven't walked that road again. But sometimes late at night, I turn off all the lights and look out the window. Because every so often, like the spacing changes, just slightly, like something is adjusting the distance. Getting it right, getting closer. If you've ever felt like a place was quietly rearranging itself around you, or like something was standing just beyond where your eyes could fully understand, tell me, not what you saw, but what you felt. Because I don't think this thing appears the same way twice. I think it just needs you to notice that there's space where there shouldn't be. And once you do, you might already be standing in the path.